안녕하세요, 여러분. 제 이름은 샤마입니다. Hello, everybody. My name is Shama, and welcome to Concurrent Session 2.2, Curriculum, Pedagogy, and Practice. For the concurrent sessions, we will be sharing lessons learned from previous practices and experiences and discuss recommendations of what needs to be done in different fields to better facilitate GCED. For those who are joining us online, there's a chat box, and you can use the chat box for your questions. We are definitely encouraging everybody to type in your questions for our panelists for today. So joining me here is, first, we have Dylan Ray, the director of Center for Learning Human Responsibility Accelerator. He is the director, and it's a nonprofit organization focused on citizenship education for the 21st century that is home to two transformative learning platforms, Symphony and Videos for Change. Dylan was the co-founder of Shikaya, a South African nonprofit citizenship organization that has supported over 10,000 teachers and 1 million students through professional development courses, teaching and learning resources and experiences. Dylan has also worked globally as a facilitator, teacher, trainer, and speaker, and he's the co-author of A School Where I Belong, Creating Transformed and Inclusive South African Schools, and also the author of learning materials that include the learning guide for the Netflix series Daughters of Destiny. Our next panelist for today, allow me to just flip through my notes here, is Rowena Hibanada. She has worked as a classroom teacher, as an education supervisor for the Schools Division Office, and as a consultant of 1,000 Teachers program. In 2016, she joined Philippine Normal University as an assistant professor and is currently serving as Director of Community Partnership and Extension Office. She's also been awarded as the country's Outstanding Teachers in 2008, Outstanding Citizen of Muntinlupa, and Outstanding Alumni of the PNU Gawad Sulo for Eminent Alumni and Outstanding UNESCO Educator of UNESCO Clubs in the Philippines. The third panelist for today is Jiong Lee. Jiong, she is serving as the Office of Education and Training as the head of APCU. She has worked as a program specialist in APCU in developing and organizing various capacity building training programs on GCED, global citizenship education for teachers, teacher educators, and youth around the world since 2010. The programs include Asia-Pacific Training Workshop on EIU, Youth Leadership Workshop on GCED, Global Capacity Building Workshop on GCED, etc., which she will be talking about later as well. Thank you so much, everybody. So for just to start off everything right now, I'm going to ask Dylan for his presentation, and then Rowena, and then Jiongshi. Dylan, go ahead.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here again, and with such distinguished panelists. I haven't won any awards, so Rowena, that's amazing. I feel humbled and nervous now. So as was introduced, I work for the Human Responsibility Accelerator, and we are dedicated to building a better world and better people through our platforms that I'll introduce and talk about it just now. But we have, part of our model is working with strategic partners around the world, and this is a growing list of strategic partners. We have distributing partners in Mexico, in the United States, Canada, Australia, and Brazil. Get this thing to, wrong thing. Here we go. As we've heard, I think, over the last 2 days, that however we interpret the figures, whether it's 30% of the global population who have never been online, or probably more accurately, as the Web Foundation's research has shown, that it's more like 48% of world's population is offline, which leaves around 52% online, and even that is probably too high, because being online doesn't necessarily mean you're online all the time, that you are, if you're a kid wanting to learn online. But I guess we could agree that around 50% of the world's population, somewhere like that, is online. And I guess it's in this context of this growing online world population that we have been working and are still developing in many, and continue to develop, two platforms. And I'm going to talk about these two platforms today to share some of what we learned and are learning. We hope is becoming best practice, but we by no means are putting that forward as that. Our first platform is Symphony, and really it's an online digital library of what we hope will be some of the best interactive and engaging learning experiences, not because we created them necessarily, but because we are collecting an incredible network of partners who are best at this work, and we bringing them in. And the other one is a program called Videos for Change, which really gets young people to create 1-minute videos about change that they want to see in the world. And we'll talk more about that. But these two programs have really, in the way we've been looking at them over the last few years, Symphony is now 2 years old, Videos for Change is almost 8 years old, and it's been refined. We're learning a number of things, and I think there are 4 things that I wanted to bring in today. One is this idea of focus, reflection, emotion, and always, importantly, the role of teacher and the place of a teacher in this space of digital learning. But there's competition. This, especially if we look at focus, this is the online competition we have if we're trying to get young people's attention. TikTok is the space that globally attracts the most young people's eyes, and it's not necessarily the competition because TikTok is fun and cool and all these things. It's just that young people are growing up in a world that is constantly drawing their attention away. I've grown up in a world that says multitasking is good. Young people are constantly doing that, and that is in some ways good and in some ways bad. But this is one thing that we're facing, this distraction. The other thing we face are I guess the inheritance, I suppose, of online learning. Now, this is just an example of one of our older online learning pages. And by all accounts, if you're my age, generally this is the kind of look of what online learning looks like. You have a big heading, you have a menu down the side where it says welcome, do you identify? You click on those, you'll get to different chapters. Generally, you scroll down, and that's how you read the text. And so you are, this is how you learn online. And many platforms, and big platforms that are used in universities, our old platform looks like this. And they work for some ways. They probably don't, though, work for young people who are more and more drawn to smaller screens, bite-sized chunks of text or video. And so we set out, after using this particular platform and doing what we could in it for a while, to rather start from scratch. And so we started to develop our own learning platform, which has been called Symphony. And I wanted to take you through some of what Symphony looks like. Because I think there's some learning, especially around focus and trying to limit distraction from young people. So when young people come onto Symphony, and they'll come on either mostly as because their teachers have assigned them lessons in Symphony, but it looks relatively similar to this, where you'll notice at the bottom are these tiles of the different lessons. When they click on a lesson, it gets a little bit bigger, they get an explanation of the lesson, and then they'll click onto that, and so they're taken through to the lesson, which I'll show you. But there are a couple of things that I think that we've learned and are learning and are continually refining that we think makes the opening part of the Symphony experience for young people engaging. One is we've tried to design it in a very similar way to a way that, say, Netflix works. Netflix is not the only one that does this, but it's something that learners are used to. Of course, I preface this that with many, many learners in the world do not access Netflix. But there's something in the design of, say, Netflix, which is both appealing, it's attractive, it draws you into wanting to get into the content. It's feeding you content as opposed to that you having to search for the content. Most people on online streaming services don't search for content. They click on things that has been fed into their kind of stream, I suppose. But of course, within the online learning, we've also included things that, so that if a learner clicks on a lesson, it'll be, well, you like that one. Other people also like this one. Why don't you try this? And so that you can push their journey. So that's part of the system we've designed within Symphony. But when they do eventually click on a lesson, before I showed you perhaps the kind of old look of the menus down the side. This is what they'll see when they click on, say, this course on unconscious bias. And you'll notice from that it's sparse, it's open. The menu is hidden. When they do want to click on the menu to see where they're going, there it is. But most of the time we want that menu away because we want to bring in attention onto what's on the screen. And so we've done a few things. In this particular example of a slide, once they click in, you'll notice there's not that much text. And in fact, the system is designed to not allow much more text than that. So even if you really have lots of text you want to put on a page, the system's going to make you put it on 2 pages or 3 pages. And the reason is because we want to keep focus on particular things, but also I think it's a bit of respect for young people. It's saying, if we've put stuff on the page we want you to read, we want you to engage with it. It's that important. So you'll notice as well, so that was in terms of focus, but we've also designed and are continually designing pieces that force young people to stop and think and pause and reflect. I think it was Janice who yesterday said the reflection time of young people on social media is non-existent. You get something, you respond. What we're trying to do in this space is to say the online space can be a place for pausing, for reflecting, for thinking. And so we've built tools, journal tools like this where you're putting short answers, tools that will allow young people to reflect just with their voice or with images. But reflection is a key piece. And so all the lessons that are created build in time for reflection. And just to preface as well that reflection is such a key part of global citizenship education. You can't, it's about human beings and it's about how we react to the world. And so you need to pause to reflect on that and on emotions. But of course, we also want young people to talk to each other. And so certain reflections, and teachers can decide what becomes public and young people can decide what is public and not, get shared within their safe class so that they're also able to engage with each other, because we also know that the online space can be a lonely space. And so we need to create tools that encourage discussion and sharing amongst each other. And then one last thing I wanted to just show is, because this is not, this is not a unique thing, a true and false question in an online platform, but what we're trying to do with all the widgets and activities is build in things that really take young people a step further. So in this case, if a young person chooses incorrect, it doesn't just say wrong, it gives a reason of why that's not wrong, why that's not right, so that there's learning in the mistake. And equally, there's confirmation in getting something right. So this is part of that, and this is a part of reflection as well, that it's not just, oh, I clicked on something, I got it right, and I move on. You now reflect on that answer. So we've designing this around limiting distraction, building in reflection, but then also that the teacher is key to this. And my work has always been respecting a teacher as a creator and an assessor. I mean, assessor doesn't sound like a great term, and I know when I said assessor, all the teachers listening suddenly, fell asleep because assessment is just such a terrible thing sometimes. But we really do feel that, that we need to honor the teacher as almost like an artist, that there's a way that you teach and a curation of teaching. And so not just the front end of the platform we've built with that spirit, but also the back end. And so you'll notice from the back end of this that it looks a little bit like a PowerPoint, that as teachers are creating these moments of the lesson, they can move them around at the bottom of the screen like you could do in a PowerPoint. If we go in a little bit more detail, there's even the segmentation of how the teacher kind of sequences lessons. It makes logical sense that you upload stuff, you create sections, you create segues between information. You should always have a stimulus. There's a task. We have a growing list of tasks from multiple choices to drag and drops and various others that we'll keep on building. And then the last thing is that there are about 50 templates that teachers can use in designing. And there's a little bit of flexibility because you've got 50 to choose from, but then there's also limited flexibility because, as I said, we want to make sure that there's a certain amount of text on the screen. And so I guess that's one part that is perhaps rigid for us, but we also realize in the experience of online learning and creating it ourselves that unless you limit text, you can find yourself down a rabbit hole of pages and pages, which means we lose kids. And then the last piece around for the teacher, it's also respecting the fact that they do have to assess. They do have to be able to very quickly understand where are the kids in my class? What is their progress like? But crucially as well, is that it's not just in, say, in a multiple choice question or they've had a few options to choose, that you want to know, did X child get it right or wrong? You want to know how many attempts they made at that, because that's learning for you as the teacher. If your whole class took 4 attempts to get to the answer, it might be that they need some work, or it might be the question's wrong. And so the more detailed feedback a system can give to teachers, the better their assessment will be. So that's the kind of the focus, the way we've developed that around attention and value in the teacher. The last piece I want to speak about is harnessing emotion. Just to say, in all the lessons with our partners, one of the two key things we ask of them and we work with them is build in reflection time and make the learning emotional. Professor Cho spoke about the emotional connection helps learning, it helps memory recall, and you can't do global citizenship education without emotion. So our last program, Videos for Change, is all about that. It's about storytelling, and really we say to young people, imagine, create, and share 1-minute videos on issues that are important to you. The website that we have on Videos for Change provides all the resources that they would need, even if without their teacher. But if you're a teacher who wants to bring this into your class, there are lesson plans, all free, that you can use. We have a platform that if you want to run a film festival based on these, that you can upload your videos, you can judge them on the platform. It makes it super easy and super exciting. But I think what's important is for you to see one of these videos so you get a sense of what it means when you give young people a voice. So that was made by a group of young people. They were 16 years old. The teacher was there just to, let them in the classroom. If you let young people loose with creativity, they explode. Like that group, they're young kids from around 50 countries around the world who've submitted videos and continue to submit. And the value for them as students is they're part of this global community. They're getting the sense of efficacy and participation. But there's also value for the teacher, that it's an opportunity to nurture student engagement, to help them develop understanding, build community within your classroom, within your school. We have schools where the whole school contribute videos. And then it also importantly helps the teacher connect with what students are learning in class to what's happening in the world. And it tells the teacher what young people feel important to them. This program, I hope many of you watching will Google it and join. One of our partners has just launched his National Geographic Society, and we've just launched the new competition with them. It's a global competition. It's called Slingshot Challenge. It's open to any kids between 13 and 18-year-old across the world, no matter what language you speak. They are the winners. There'll be 5 winners. Each of them get $10,000, and they get to choose $2,000 for a nonprofit that they care about. Money aside, it's an incredible opportunity to be a part of the National Geographic community and global community. And so I really encourage you go to this slingshot.videos for change or just Google either of those two things. You'll find the space, and it's a great way to bring your kids into the opportunity of sharing their voice and then for us to amplify that. And I think that's my time up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dylan. I think that was very, yeah, definitely claps for Dylan. Thank you so much for that. I think that was very, and it was a very interesting platform that you've just presented to us. And I really like how you tried to address the issue of distraction, knowing how, you know, a lot of us would always go to TikTok because it is bite-sized, because it is like it's easy to use, and you've definitely put user experience at the heart of creating the platform as well, which I think is very helpful. And I think we can all have discussions around that later as well after each of the presentations. I'm going to hand this over now to Rowena. Rowena, go ahead.
Thank you, Sham. Annyeonghaseyo. Mabuhay, magandang hapon, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Those who are watching with us online, thank you for coming and thank you for learning with us about GCED, Curriculum, Pedagogy, and Practice. It's an honor for our group to be here this afternoon to share to you our curriculum development and integration project in the Philippines and how we mainstream global citizenship education in the basic education of our country. So in the Philippines, there are various efforts on global citizenship education which have started to gain traction in the recent years. In fact, our university was established in 1901 but started its advocacy for gender and development for peace education way back in the 80s, even in the 70s during the martial law of our country, when we had the popular education for. But those are small group of people that have started the spark and continued on. And I remember in the 90s, I was just a student then, looking forward to meetings about peace education and gender and development. But a landmark project that we had this pandemic, during the height of the pandemic, was that we were given a chance to work with the Department of Education and UNESCO UPCU for the Curriculum Development and Integration Project in the Philippines. We had the second year and the third year of the project from the Department of Education. It was a landmark project because it's a huge project that we have undergone in the university and our group. I would say it is the most systematic since we had a very systematic research on how we could look at the curriculum and map the global citizenship education in the current curriculum of our basic education. It is well participated as well because we had teachers who worked with us from the field, from the Department of Education. We had university professors as well coming in as consultants in the consultation, and it's very collaborative as well because there are, of course, the UNESCO UPCU and the Department of Education, the Commission on Higher Education, some higher education institutions as well, and it was a spearheaded project by the Philippine Normal University. So in November 2020, we had this project, the Curriculum Development and Integration Project in the Philippines, and it was successfully delivered by our university as implementing agency and the Department of Education as a partner agency. So this had 4 objectives that we were able to manage and that we were able to implement. Number 1 is to develop the Philippine GCED indicators. Of course, the intention is that we have the UNESCO indicators of global citizenship education, but what will we do if it is contextualized? It should be contextualized in our country, in our language, in our history, in the way that we teach our students as well. And so we had to look at the different existing laws and policies that we have at the department, at the Higher Education Commission, and also the different policies and laws that are existing in our country, such as, of course, we had the GMRC law, which was passed just recently. We have the Gender and Development law and all those other laws. Even the Philippine Constitution as well indicator of global citizenship education. And then we had the very comprehensive mapping of the Philippine GCED indicators after going through the different, we also had inputs from foreign research on the Philippine education as well. Very helpful was the literature from the UNESCO APSEU research of Felisa Tibitz, and we were able to get very, very insightful reflection in her work. And so we do the mapping of the Philippine GCED indicators in the K-12 curriculum from kinder to the different subject areas of the grade 12 for the senior high school. So it was, we had teachers who work with us, from different islands in the country. And then we had, as their partner, professors from the Philippine Normal University and other professors as well in different teacher education institutions in the Philippines. Then after that, we developed the Philippine GCED framework. We call it Paghabi, where we contextualized the global citizenship education, and hopefully that it, of course, will be adopted by the Department of Education. And then in elaboration of the framework, we had identification of the knowledge, the skills, the attitudes, where we can find it in the, where we hope to find in the document as well of the Department of Education. After a year of doing all of these things that we want to do to help our K-12 implementation of the curriculum, we decided that we still is not finished with all these things, and we sat together and look at how we can implement and help the Department of Education look at these questions and guide ourselves into the implementation of this framework. So we have the framework, we mapped it, we've seen that there are gaps in the K-12 curriculum. We have subject areas that are not GCED, that you cannot find GCED in the different curriculums, such as, of course, math and science. So we need to look at what educational purposes do we seek to attain in order for us to actually put GCED in the curriculum of the K-12 of our basic education. What educational experience can we provide to students by integrating GCED? What can they get from this activity that we are doing? And how should this GCED experiences be effectively organized in the curriculum? And these questions are important questions to us as we reflect on the things that we will do after. And so the year 3 of the project came in last year, and it has all 4 objectives also. So we sat down, we decided that we want to work again for the 4 work and these 4 objectives. And so we again partnered with the Department of Education as an offshoot of the first year of the year 2. And of course, we had on our back the UNESCO APSEU to support us. So we had to develop a manual for Filipino teachers in integrating GCEDs in their lesson. And these are exemplars. We developed GCED exemplars based on the developed guidelines that we did on the year 1. We pilot tested the manual and also the developed GCED lesson exemplars. And number 4 is to establish the monitoring and evaluation mechanism to evaluate this project, and as well as the different lesson exemplars and its implementation in the ground. So the major outputs were we're very proud to say that we were able to give to the Department of Education a manual for writing GCED lesson exemplars that will guide our teachers on the ground so that they will not have to see it as another work added on their burden. And they can look at the sample GCED lesson exemplars online. It is readily available for teachers as an exemplar and as something that they can also use as a free course in educating their students in GCED. Also, we had a report on pilot testing and validation of these materials, and of course, the report and monitoring and evaluation and the technical reports. So this is what guided us in the implementation of our project. Of course, we look at the impact, basically looking at the SDG 4, quality education, and specifically SDG 4.7, where we want to effectively deliver equitable and inclusive quality education that promotes lifelong learning opportunities for our students, for the Filipino students. And we look at education for sustainable development and global citizenship in the K-12 curriculum as well. We had projects right now for the higher education, but what I'm talking about is the finished project for the basic ed. And so we look at the outcomes of this project, and we are happy that we did excellently contextualizing a guideline for Filipino teachers in integrating GCED in their lessons. And the material is readily available online, and they can download it for them free to use. And then we had enhanced quality of resources of integration of global citizenship education in the lessons. And of course, we look at how teachers have improved delivery of the lessons with GCED integration. And so we have outputs that can be used and can be validated as well on the ground, such as the manual for writing the GCED lesson exemplars, the printed lesson exemplars, and then, of course, the enhanced skills of writers, teacher writers, who helped us in developing the lesson exemplars. We had videos for demo teaching in integrating GCED, and these are excellently done by Filipino teachers. Most of them are part of the Korean Teacher Exchange Program alumni, and of course, the increased level of competence among Filipino teachers. Of course, the teacher quality is important in delivering the lessons. And so how did we do it? We look at iterative, collaborative, integrative, and consultative processes of different activities, such as manual writing for the core group, the write shop and demo teaching, the pilot testing in different areas in the Philippines, and then the monitoring and evaluation. So these are key people. I would like to thank Dr. Joyce Andaya of the Bureau of Curriculum Development and the team that she has in the Department of Education. Of course, our president, Dr. Bert J. Tuga, president of the Philippine Normal University. I am with our team, Dr. Serafin Arviola, Professor Carl de Leomos, Dr. Bedoral, and Professor Areta as well. But you can see that we had 20 school heads from different areas in the Philippines. We had 55 teacher validators. We have 33 teacher writers who produced 30 exemplars. We have expert validators and language editors as well. So these are the different actions that we have taken: development of the manual, of course, the write shop, the pilot testing and validation of the videos, such as demo teaching, and monitoring and evaluation of the project. But there are challenges that we, of course, during the pandemic, that we faced along the way. Of course, the project management is really a big challenge for our team, but through collaboration and consultation amidst the pandemic and COVID risk, we're able to pull off the project. Also, of course, experience poor internet connectivity in the Philippines. And so it, of course, it affected the different outputs to be delayed, and some pandemic restrictions during that time. I think for any curriculum integration efforts or project that we can do in the future, we have to realize that the process is very complex. It's multidimensional and multi-layered. So we see that collaboration and consultation from the DepEd side, from the higher education institutions, is important. These activities, of course, together we can do many things. And then we should have strong and sustainable foundations for GCED integration. Of course, we need government support as well. But I like this number 3 that part of the insight of the group is that we have to support our teachers in their professional development and capacity building. We cannot, they are the frontliners of our education. We cannot just put them on the classroom without any professional development and capacity building in order for them to do things that they have less knowledge of. So in GCED integration, it's important that we provide them professional development opportunities as well. And of course, research and development is important. So we need, we look at how we can have the national needs analysis survey in terms of teacher competence in integration or integrating GCED in their lesson. So we look at, we need to have a center for coordinating global citizenship education efforts as well. And of course, looking at how GCED professionals can have an association as well. So I think that's our project, and thank you for listening to my presentation. Of course, through GCED, we can transform our world, not just for me and you, but for this child and all the children of our world. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much. Kamsahamnida.
Maraming salamat, Ate Rowena. Thank you very much for that. And thank you so much for also pointing out. I think both of you have pointed out that ease of access and ease of use is very important, especially for students, in order for them to understand the lesson well, but also especially for teachers, whether that's through integration in the curriculum, so it's not to overburden the teachers, or to create platforms that they already are familiar with in order for them to just create their content as easily and as quickly as we can. Thank you also for noting that it's also very important to have commitments and partnerships with agencies like the Department of Education to also help the ease the implementation of any of the projects that you have as well. Thank you once again, and congratulations for your project, Ate Rowena. Over to Jiyoung for your presentation. Go ahead.
So thank you very much. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all. So my name is Ji-Hong Lee. I'm the head of Office of Education and Training here at AFCEU. So yeah, I'm so happy to share our experiences of our new model of capacity building programs and GCED. So I said the title of my presentation is From Challenges to Change Through the Community. So yeah, in the pandemic, we had faced challenges just like you did. So for those who know AFCEU's training programs, we have some unique features of having these whole educators and youth leaders around the world. And we gather for a certain period of time, for a few days, few weeks, and few months, and having these incredible moments together for a certain period of time together. However, when the pandemic happens, I mean, it all ended, so we couldn't really do it anymore. So it was really hard for us. So we had to sit down and think about what we can actually do and how we can move forward. So we had to convert our training programs from this traditional face-to-face form to this online training format as we do now. So yeah, but as I mentioned earlier, it was not easy. So we had to really analyze where we are now. So there are, of course, the challenges and threats that we have and our participants had. So like as Ms. Rowena has shared before, internet connectivity is a strong point for these weaknesses for many educators in the world. And also they might feel some lack of interactions and they might lose some interest in those online training formats. So these are some threats and challenges that we had. And then we wanted to analyze the needs of our participants. So we found out they still have a strong need for these meaningful learning experiences in this challenging time. And also they wanted to acquire new sets of skills and competencies to adapt these changes they have faced now. So now we looked into what we already have. So we found that we have a strong network of these dedicated alumni and the expert groups and faculty groups and the partners in different parts of the world. So that's one of the strengths that we had. And also, fortunately, we had this existing online platform on GCED, which is GCED Online Campus. So we wanted to start there and focusing on what we can do best, what really makes AFCEU as AFCEU, with the analyzed needs of the participants. So these are some lessons we have gained through this analysis. So first one is that definitely in the online learning environment, technology, it really matters. And also the quality content, it matters as well. However, there's something more, which is community. So that's what we found, and we thought that we really realized that forming a meaningful community in the process of this online learning is super important. So we decided to have these focus areas. Number one is that, yeah, let's create an inviting, caring, and meaningful community in this online learning. And next one is that we wanted to really reflect the needs of our participants so that we could provide the more relevant programs for educators and youth leaders. And next thing is that we wanted to enhance the support system for our teachers and youth so that they could take actions after this training program. That is the ultimate goal of our training programs on GCED. So these are some new components introduced to the existing training programs that we had. So first one is that expert mentorship program. So at the end of this online training program, we asked the participants to send us the proposals with some concrete ideas that what they want to do after this training program in their local communities. And then these selected mentees will be assigned to mentors so that they can receive some individualized mentorship and guidance from these mentors who are the experts in the area of GCED. So together with that, we provided some support for the local projects so that they can carry on in their local communities. So it includes some financial support as well as the institutional support as well, meaning that we provide some small grant funds so that they could at least initiate some project in the communities. So it's really important because they could do something reflecting the lessons they gained from the training. And at the same time, they could also observe that things are happening, changes are being happening by the hands of themselves. So with that, we were able to see some enhanced impact of our training programs. So this is the new model of our capacity building programs. So in the planning stage, we do the needs assessment of our participants. And we were also curating our programs so that we can provide more relevant and useful programs for the participants. And in the pre-workshop phase, we do this information session for the participants, for the applicants actually. So it's open to everyone. So whoever is interested in our training programs, they can come and listen to this, and also they get to know who the trainers are and what kind of programs are being offered, what they can expect, and also what can do even after these training programs. And then after that, if they think that it's for them, then they would go for and apply for this. And it was through the open call for applications, meaning that whoever has meeting the minimum requirement for the application, then they can do for it on an individual basis. And also at that stage, we asked the applicants to give us these project plans or some ideas that they would like to do after these training programs. And also we do provide this pre-online learning opportunity so that they can gain some basic knowledge on GCED, meaning that so that in the main workshop, they can go deeper into GCED. And also we provide this small group orientation and gatherings so that they can get to know each other before the workshop starts. So in the workshop, main workshop sessions, we are working really hard to create a meaningful rapport among these participants and with the participants using many different types of methodology and approaches. And also we provide the synchronous and asynchronous sessions to meet the different needs of the participants. And also there are a lot of small group interactions and informal dialogue so that they can enjoy the whole process of interacting one another, and also they could feel a strong sense of belonging to this learning community. And also we're trying to make our training sessions as participatory, engaging, and interactive as much as possible. So next is the post-workshop phase. So the mentorship and grant opportunity comes in this stage. So those who are ready to do their own actions based on these lessons from these training programs, they get this mentorship program, and also they get some grants as the seed funds for their programs so that they carry out their local projects with the guidances and some advices and support from us and from the mentors. And of course, from this alumni group as well. So we do have this scale-up project as well for the alumni, so I'll tell you a little bit about that in the next slides. And also we try to provide some continued learning opportunities so that they could feel that they still belong here and then the whole community remains. Yeah, it's a simplified version of our workshop model. So in the phase 1, the self-paced learning on basic knowledge on GCED together with the orientation. And in the phase 2, they take this main workshop through these live and online sessions with their peer participants. And in phase 3, there is a mentorship competition by submitting their proposals. And when they're selected, they get this mentorship and grant, and they can implement their project in their local communities. So yeah, we've seen some impacts of the new model of this capacity building programs. I brought this data from last year because we are still collecting this year's data. So last year we had 251 educators and youth from 45 countries have graduated our training programs in different parts of the world. And out of them, 56 participants received the exclusive expert mentorship and grant, meaning that 56 different GCED projects have been implemented in 24 countries in different parts of the world. So the GCED projects initiatives taken by our participants were really varied. So it ranges from the youth workshop, teacher training workshop, advocacy work, module development, community campaign, and game development, and so on. There are many different types of programs done by our alumni last year only. So these are the actual cases from our participants. There are actually a lot, but I only brought some of them. So there is one advocacy campaign for the girls in Nigeria by our youth leader, and also youth campaign in Sierra Leone. In Liberia, there's a GCED education program done by another youth leader, and also the MIL plus GCED project done by one Mongolian youth leader. And also there's so many different type of capacity building programs and training programs on GCED done by our teachers and teacher trainers in different parts of the world, including the Philippines, Kazakhstan, Bhutan, and some other countries. And also there was another interesting peace building initiative done by a Colombian youth leader. So she has developed this interesting peace building game for the learners in early childhood. Also, our Thai teacher, she has developed the course development for this GCED and SEL, and text analysis was done by our Pakistani educator. So like that, there's so many interesting initiatives done by our alumni last year only, and it's going on this year as well. And also this year, we had launched an interesting initiative, which is Scale Up Project, in order to further support our alumni's initiatives and efforts on global citizenship education. So we held this alumni forum where we invited a lot of our alumni who are doing their GCED works in different communities, so they come and share their stories, and also they get the support to upscale their efforts. So now I would like to tell you a little bit about our GCED online campus. I mentioned earlier in my first slide that we already had this existing online platform on global citizenship education. So this is a learning hub for the GCED. So whoever wants to learn about this GCED, they can come and take all these courses for free of charge, and also they can take the certificate. So this GCED online campus was created in 2016, and ever since that it has been evolving like this. And during the pandemic period, we have observed the rapid increase of our learners enrolled in different courses. And at this moment, we have more than 62,000 learners enrolled in different courses that we have. So there are some different types of courses being run on these platforms. So there are the MOOC type self-paced courses. We call it like open courses. And also there are instructor-led courses, and also blended courses, pre-training courses for our workshop alumni. And also there are some tailored courses for smaller groups of learners. So these are some examples coming from our website. So there are open courses, meaning that you can take these courses anytime, anywhere, on your own pace. So it's open throughout the whole year. And we also have these instructor-led and advanced courses where you can learn about the different thematic areas of GCED and pedagogical approaches and so on. So in those advanced courses, you have your instructor in the classroom and you have your peer learners in that classroom, and then you go through this study for about 4 weeks, 6 weeks, even 8 weeks. So we call it like closed courses because we have this limited number of people for this course so that they can have stronger community inside the classroom. So yes, I mentioned earlier, there are meaningful learning communities there in our online platform. So we have 23 faculty members currently, and we have more than 100 international speakers are with us. And also we have, actually this data comes from this morning, so 62,388 users we have. So if you join now, it goes up. So if you want, please come and join from like literally everywhere, from 119 different countries. So it's amazing to see how many small learning communities are being formed and maintained in these classrooms, even in virtual world. So many of them are voluntarily forming their communities, sharing their experiences, learning, and also encouraging each other, sharing the wisdoms and everything there. So, and it's so amazing to see that. Sometimes we are in there, and sometimes we are not there. Only by the participants we see that. So partly, I think it affects the high completion rate of our online courses. So I know that all these online platforms have some issues having these low completion rates. So people register, they want to take it, but for some reasons, they just stop doing it, right? However, especially in our advanced courses, since there's a strong community inside, many of learners, they could complete the courses. So average, it was also from last year's data, 61.5%, 8% they complete their courses. And this is another example for us, and then I think it shows really the future direction of our GCED online campus. These two courses are developed and facilitated by our alumni, two Mongolian young educators who wanted to train their colleague educators and their colleagues, the young leaders, in Mongolia, but the language issue, because most of our courses done in English, so they wanted to do it in Mongolian. So they initiate this project, so they developed, bring all these existing GCED materials, and then they localized, contextualized them also with the translation and so on. And also they put their own contents there. So they have facilitated, and then many of the Mongolian educators were able to take this course in their own language. So as I mentioned earlier, I think that this will be the future direction for us, so that now, since now, maybe until now we've been the provider and the learners, there are the receivers, but we need to really change the format, so we should be the co-creators, co-learners together. So yeah, this is the end of my presentation. I would like to just summarize my presentation, so how we've going through these challenges for a change through the community. Yeah, so we've been working really hard to create and maintain this meaningful community in this online learning environment. And also, we wanted to enhance the support mechanism so that our alumni participants feel that there's someone who supports and encouraging them. So it was one of focus areas for us. The other one was that we were trying to make our contents most transferable and relevant so that they find it useful in their own context. And lastly, we believe that this model, our capacity building model, is evolving. It doesn't just stay as it is forever. So with all these changes and challenges sometimes we face, it's evolving. So we're hoping that we can grow together with the educators and young leaders around the world. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeongli. Yes, another round of applause for our panelists here. So I'm just going to give time for people to be able to put their questions in the chat right now. But thank you so much for the presentation, Jeongshi. I really liked how you also mentioned how there's now going to be a shift within the creation of your platform and your content in the platform as co-learners and co-creators as well, and how you've also navigated the space around building community through online spaces, which is a little difficult, especially that, when you're online, it's not as humanizing as it is. But thank you so much for walking us through that as well. We already have questions in the chat. Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm happy about this participation. So first question goes to Dylan. Dylan, considering the case of Symphony, it seems understanding digital grammar of youth is the key to intervene in the life and mind of youth. Could you share how you came to understand the digital grammar of youth?
It's a great question. I like that phrase, the digital grammar of youth. I think you should take it out of the inverted commas and claim it. So let me preface is that you asked how we came to understand. I think it would be better phrased as how we are continually trying to understand. One is because as if we take the social media platforms, they're continually changing young people's and adults, but in young people, their interaction with these platforms is continually changing as well. So I don't think it's a thing to have got to the end and going, okay, we've got it, now we can build. In terms of what we've got at the moment and what we're building at the moment and fine-tuning, a lot of that is based on a lot of research that is already out there around attention and focus, around literacy strategies, and online learning is at its heart a literacy platform. And so we've been drawing on a lot of that, but we are also developing the capacity within the platform and have begun some of it that we as the partners in the platform are continually able to assess how young people are engaging with this content. And that is partly in terms of looking at the data of their engagement, but it also will be in the future bringing focus groups of young people in the variety of classrooms together to really not use them, but to draw on them to help create this better. But I think what, I take that question that you have as I suppose a challenge and responsibility that if you're in this space of digital learning, that one of the key tasks that you have is to be continually understanding the digital grammar. And then, because it's grammar, actually understanding it as an adult yourself so you can actually speak it as well. It's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dylan. And thank you so much to our participant who asked that question. To Ate Rowena this time, you mentioned that you localized the UNESCO indicators according to the Philippine context. Could you elaborate more on what indicators were modified? What elements were added or reduced when contextualizing according to the Philippine context?
Thank you to that question from our audience. This will take another 2 hours or maybe a day to discuss all of this localization and contextualization of the UNESCO indicators in the Philippine context. But just to summarize what the group did, and when I say group, it's composed of different teachers from different areas in the Philippines, special consultants from the Department of Education, including experts from the teacher education institutions as well as Philippine Normal University. We did not, we added some and we combined some of the indicators of the UNESCO, but one very particular to Filipino context that we added was the idea of kapwa in terms of shared humanity. We put in the value, and of course, when we say kapwa in the Filipino word, it talks about relationship as well as it talks about values as well. So, mahalin ang kapwa. Sino ang iyong kapwa? We talk about both of us as being human beings, being a person who lived apart, but we are together. And so I think that's one of the most prominent addition and contextualization of the UNESCO indicators in the Philippine context. We also look at how the indicators were written from the simpler to complex according to the Bloom's taxonomy of objectives. So the last would be the higher order thinking skills such as engagement in the community. For the social-emotional learning, we have, for the social-emotional domain, we have the characterization of respect for humanity and valuing respect for humanity as well and diversity appreciation. And for the cognitive, we look at how a Filipino could work at the different systems and looking at the system-based solutions to existing problems of the community as well. And for engagement, of course, looking at how they can be part of the solution and not ranting about the problems in the community, but finding out where we can work together as one because of the kapwa or kapwa. It doesn't have any translation in other language, even in the English language. Kapwa is really innate in the Filipino culture and language and values.
Thank you so much, Ate Rowena. And the next question is actually for Jiong. When monitoring post-project performances of alumni participants, what were some of the major changes you witnessed on the ground, and what feedback did you receive from the alumni participants?
Okay, thank you for the question. Well, actually, there are a lot, many changes that I've been observing. So, as I showed you in my slides, many things are happening in different parts of the world. So after this training program, as an organizer, I was always wondering, so what are they going to do with that? So they say that they've learned something from this training, they'll be doing something, but it was really hard for us to know what that are. But then they've been letting us know what's happening in their local communities, what kind of activities are they doing, and what kind of changes they are trying to make in their communities. And also sometimes they're sharing the feedbacks from their students, the local communities, and the people they're working around, and also the alumni. So and also, many times we are invited to this online event and training programs that they do, and then it's so amazing to see that we see another version of upstate trainings there in different parts of the world, in the Philippines, in Cambodia, and in Nigeria, and some other countries. So that's amazing to see. And also, I see that the localization and contextualization of GCED, that's really something that they achieve, because it can be only done by them. It can really be done by us. It can be only done by the hands of the teachers and educators in the local communities. So that's what we've been observing. And also, there are many interesting feedbacks from our alumni. So what we learned is that having these communities and having this support is really important, because not simply because they get some small financial support, rather having us and our alumni group as the partner for them, it really means a lot to them, because they can also get some other support from their own institutions, from their own communities, so that they feel that they're really connected to the world. So they're not alone there, left out and doing something all alone, but they have someone around them, like a mentors, alumni, the peer learners, and UpSeiyu, and other partners. So I think it means a lot to them, and mostly they're coming from our alumni.
Thank you so much, Jiongshi, for that. So actually, just a broad question for everybody as well. We've talked about some of the challenges that you've faced in terms of implementation, but also the challenges that you're trying to address through the platforms that you're creating. We've talked about how you've done it and how, what are some of the best practices that you have already done through the projects that you've created. I want to ask about, from these experiences and from these learnings already, what do you think are some of the possibilities? You've already mentioned shifting to being co-learners and co-creators of the platform as well. Are there any other types of possibilities that we're looking at using the programs and the projects that you've already been doing? Maybe I'll start with Jiong.
Why me first? Okay, all right. Yes, there are many possibilities. Just let me share my experience with our Pakistani educators. We have just finished our training program with the Pakistani educators. And then one of them has said that, of course, in the pandemic, they have faced a lot of challenges. Converting all this education into this online format is such a challenge for them because of all these existing limitations they have. But then one of the teachers said that, it was such a blessing in disguise to them. So they newly found that the beauty of these new opportunities for learning. So it has given them a paradigm shift looking into this education, and also the relationship between the learners and teachers, and also how they can cope with all these challenges. So I mean, it was such a good lesson for us as well. So, and also we've seen that many creative and innovative way of adopting all these challenges in the local communities by our alumni. So they may not do the same way as we do, because they are all in very different situation and context, including those very different digital environment for them. However, we've seen that they're being so creative, they can do something on their own. So I think that's the possibility that we have observed.
Thank you so much. Move on to Ate Rowena.
I think one of the greatest possibility that we looked at during the end of the project, and now that we are starting with a new project called PNU as the GCED Center in the Philippines, is that looking into putting on more students' voices in the projects that we are making, because we are mainly focused on teachers and capacitating educators in integrating global citizenship education, mainstreaming it in the different subject areas, but looking at how we can hear the voices of our students, maybe in the implementation, look at the impact of these lessons, and maybe have some discussions with students as well. So we look at how we can talk about global citizenship education and what they learned in kindergarten to senior high school, up to the teacher education, pre-service teachers, and other educators as well.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to hear that. Dylan.
Well, I think it's my possibility, or our possibility, is probably the reverse. So while you're looking at the possibility of young people, our possibility is for teachers. And so we will be developing 2023 the symphony version for teachers. So on one hand, it's again saying that teachers need to be valued, they need to be supported. There's learning that they need beyond just the curriculum, but the broader issues of climate change or human rights, whatever those are. But also that teachers need beautiful, engaging spaces to learn in. And I think the other possibility tied to that too is, which is a kind of little passion of mine, is a Videos for Change challenge for teachers. So that teachers are creating these 1-minute videos. On one hand, of course, that is great, because once a teacher can do it, so a teacher can teach it. But also because teachers also have passions. They also have issues that are important to them. And sometimes teachers feel that I don't have the space to say it in my classroom because, leave it to the kids, for sure. But I think, especially the teachers in this kind of community of APCU or GCED, these are teachers who are grounded in values and wanting to make the world a better place. And so let's give them a voice as well, in some ways. So, yeah, we'll just swap roles there.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give you time to also ask questions to each other, but I have specific questions for each of you as well. So Ate Rowena, my question for you is, I know that you've partnered with the Department of Education. How important is it to partner with government agencies in order to create the projects and the integration into the curriculum of the project that you've just created?
Thank you for asking that, Sham, because we see in the, of course, in the Philippine Normal University context that we need to work with not just with the agency of education, but also among lawmakers in terms of sustaining all these efforts. When we look at implementation of curriculum and mainstreaming these advocacies, even gender, even global citizenship education, we look at how we can make this a legacy to our future generation. So, and so it's important to work with institutions as well. And also we look at how teachers can be partnered with as well, and the Department of Education is very important since it is the platform, they have the teachers, they have the support, they have the means to, of course, sustaining these projects as well. And the local government officials, the local government agency is also important in implementing. We look at how we can look at the to maximize the resources in the community through these different government organizations as well as civil service organizations and the civil society.
Thank you so much, Ate Rowena. For Jiong, my question is specifically on the idea of co-learning and co-creating and how that relates to like how you're trying to build curriculum. What does that look like in trying to build curriculum and in trying to do a pedagogy as well, and trying to build pedagogy as well?
I think it's related to what I just mentioned earlier. We've seen a lot of good cases of contextualizing this GCED in terms of its concept and approaches and how to teach and everything. So we've learned a lot from different cases from the alumni, so that we would like to introduce them. For example, we provide a lot of different GCED training courses on our GCED online campus. However, first one is the language, so provide most courses in English. So there are some language barriers for some educators and also some young learners or even the students. So many times we request, we receive the request and having some multilingual courses for them, but it's really hard for us to provide all linguistic courses on this GCED, right? So as we saw in Mongolian cases, we have our alumni who can speak those languages, who know the context, and who knows how to translate these GCED concepts into own context. So we would like to invite those alumni who are willing to do their GCED training or even education so that they could become the course developers. At the same time, they could also become the facilitators and teachers, instructors, and advisors. They can take many positions there. So far, we've been doing this GCED online campus for about 5 years and 6 years. And then what we did was that we invited the experts on global citizenship education from different parts of the world. However, still it was developed by us, our side. And then our educators and learners, they would come and listen and learn from there, right? However, we would like to transform another space that once they get trained, they learned together with us, then now they become the facilitators. They could come and teach because they know their context the best. So they can invite their own educators, and also it can be a good showcase for other educators and other young leaders as well, so they can learn from there, and then they can also do their own in their own ways. So that's what we're hoping to do from now on.
Thank you so much, Jiong. For Dylan, my question is, can you help us or walk us through how you've created Symphony, like just the history of it and how you've created the content within Symphony as well? Because you've mentioned earlier about the platform itself and the user experience of the platform. I'm interested to learn more about how you've built the content for that platform as well.
Yeah, sure. So the history of Symphony comes out of actually two years before COVID, where our kind of main partner, High Resolves, of which we're a part of as an organization, brought together, I think it was 6 or 7 leading citizenship education organizations who have great content, and said, you know, here we all are developing our own stuff, you know, giving it to our own particular markets or communities, but then, you know, the rest, everyone else doesn't have access to it. So how do we come together and allow teachers to have bits of all of our stuff? And so the platform Composer was created, which really allows, and it's still there, allows teachers to be able to say, I want to teach a course on human rights, and I can choose little bits from various organizations and pull them in together in a course. And that was all downloadable PDFs and lesson plans. Then COVID happened and everything had to switch online. And it became clear that that same model of working very closely with content partners who can bring their content onto this platform still own the content, still be their space, not take away from their own websites and their own pieces, was a model that was successful. And so we then started to approach a wider group of content partners who we felt and others felt who've been recommended that they've got great content, and brought them on to help co-create the content. So a very similar idea of, as AppSU says, we can't create it all, we don't have the capacity or the knowledge, neither do we, neither does anyone. And the best we can do is to create content together. And that's ongoing, and and you spoke about, to Ruin, about the relationships with education departments, and the relationship with partners is built on trust, and built on that we're here to create something great together. And so we have to release some of our control or release some of our IP to create something new. But in our experience is that in this world of GCED, that there are enough organizations and teachers on the ground, because it's not just organizations. Another possibility going forward would be teachers as well, creating this stuff. But there are enough organizations globally who say, like, we formed as an organization in order to get our stuff out. Let's try and get it out in a variety of ways. And we'll still be an organization with a brand and all these important things. I hope that succinctly, yeah.
Very much so. Thank you very much, Jillian. I'm going to open the floor for our panelists to sort of ask questions to each other and just start up discussions around this. So would anybody like to start with the questions?
Yeah, actually, I saw one question from one Korean teacher on the platform, so I just wanted to address that. So she was asking whether there was any cases that GCED was integrated in math teaching. So as far as I know, there was a lesson exemplars and also manual on the GCED teaching in math classes, right? So can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, we had, I said earlier, 30 lessons, including math and science. There's also an exemplar on health and PE. These are made by teachers on the ground, and we are very proud of them. So hello, teachers who work with us. A shout out to you all. And they were very good, and they were very patient when they, when they developed it. It took us months, almost a year to finish and validate, because it comes forward, backward, because there are things that, of course, we took the comments of the validators who are there, the school heads, and also who are subject experts. So when they come together again, we look at how we can improve these lessons. But there are different lessons. It will be available in the GCC Network Philippines soon. We'll be opening the website of the Philippine Normal University Global Citizenship Cooperation Center very soon, maybe next week when we go back, because we're all here. The team is all here, and they are supporting me here in this hall. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ate Rowena. Sorry, can I just follow up? Could you give us like a little bit of an example of what it looks like to incorporate or to integrate GCED in math learning? Just a quick example.
I'm not a math teacher. I'm a social studies teacher and a values ed, but that's a good question. Maybe I will ask some of the participants in the exemplar. But we developed the lesson outline. And so there's like motivation. And one of the lessons that I saw during the validation was integrating the value of sharing in a fraction class. The value of sharing. And also the value of appreciating diversity in the different numbers. And these are lessons for grade 1. And I think those are really very important lessons that a grade 1 can learn. And I appreciate, because back then I had a grade 1 student, my daughter, and we had samples of the lesson to my younger child, and she was very excited to learn about it. And so those numbers can be learned, of course, caring and sharing. In the different operations in the mathematics can also be GCED integrated as well. And so it's happy. In science, I really appreciate the lesson of teacher Christine Barredo on the different diversity of food. So food diversity, food across the world, and injecting that we don't waste food because there are countries that are experiencing famine or lack of food sources. And it's really very impactful among children.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful. And actually, sorry, I remember one of the conversations that I've had with some of my friends when we were talking about economics. And when we talk about economics, we're also always talking about scarcity and all that. But what we wanted to shift that and say, hey, economics is actually about sharing your resources, right? And learning fractions and sharing maybe from word problems. Like instead of having 400 apples and someone gets one from you, maybe it can be rephrased based on that. So thank you so much for that, Ate Rowena. Dylan, you were raising your hand earlier. Okay, perfect.
Can I
Amazing.
just add to what he just said? Yeah, it's really regarding the GCED practices math teaching. So there were some cases in Korea and also one case in Bhutan, I remember. I visited some schools in Korea and Bhutan, and then the teachers, they used these GCED concepts together with this activism engagement and also these math concepts. So what they did was that the food waste is a big problem for many schools, not only in Korea, but other parts of the world. So they wanted to reduce the food waste, but they kept telling the students, don't just waste the food and eat everything, but it doesn't really work. So what they did was that they asked the students, do you really think that's a problem? So what is the cause and what would be the consequences out of it? So they learned about it from the social studies classes, and after that, they kind of made this campaign, the school-wide campaign, so how we can reduce it and for what? So they conducted themselves together, and then they analyzed the volumes of this food waste before the campaign, during the campaign, and after the campaigns. And they make this whole data and everything using all these math concepts. And then they could learn about it. It's kind of integrated, studies, like social studies and morals, ethics, and together with the math. So it was a very interesting case for us. And I saw the similar case in Bhutan. So I thought that it's really interesting that teachers can make use of all these everyday life experiences together with teaching in the subjects.
Thank you so much for that, Jiyong. So let me just quickly shift the conversation now to recommendations. So we've talked about the possibilities that that you already have based on your projects, but do you have any recommendations as well around curriculum, pedagogy, and practice, especially in digital learning? I don't know where to start.
Maybe I should.
Okay.
I think one of the best recommendation is that we are mainly focused on teacher education in the Philippines. And so we haven't really navigated other courses, other majorship as well in the higher education. What about, engineering course or the medical field? Those are unexplored GCED opportunities for integration. And so we look at how we can mobilize all these GCC hubs, because in the Philippines, just a few weeks we had the launching of the different regional hubs in the Philippines. So we have now, I think among 70 regions, we already have 12 regional hubs, hello regional hubs. And I think for this advocacy to move forward, we need to look at how we can integrate this into the different areas of learning, such as, of course, what I mentioned earlier, engineering courses or medical courses that we have in the higher education institution. I can't see any. Of course, there are obstacles along the way in the reception of course, different learning institutions. But looking at it can be possible if we can have our nurses having that kind of thinking. And if we have different professionals as well, accounting, accountants, and all these lawyers that we have in the country to appreciate and to learn about global citizenship. And so this is a challenge for our regional hubs to look at the proposals that they can do in order for this very important endeavor that we are doing be integrated into their own campuses, into their own curriculum as well.
Thank you so much, Ate Rowena. Maybe Dylan can go next.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I think, I guess I'm picking up on what Mr. Grizzle said yesterday around that, this digital area we're in, that there's an urgency. We can't wait to do this in 10 years' time and then think, because we lose generations who need these skills now. And I think it's generations of young people who need the skills and generations of teachers who need the skills. And I think so there's an urgency, and I also think, picking up on what came out of yesterday's conversation as well, is around that it is we need to teach young people this kind of, certain skills and, and how you navigate information and distinguish between information, but also realize that the information they get is value laden and it's emotional, and so that there needs to be, I guess we need to sometimes MIL education can be very much in the headspace and very factual and do X, Y, and Z. And I think we need to open it up a little bit more and explore some of those things that Lisa had mentioned yesterday in the conference about who owns the internet and who controls and for what reason, and those kind of things are things that need to be brought into the curriculums that are written in, whether it's UNESCO or whoever does it. And I think it's if one topic, and I'm sure everyone's thinking about this as well, that if I was going to focus on one thing, it would be with a lot of lens on misinformation and disinformation and fake news. I think that's this we haven't got a handle on it, and I would be putting my attention a lot on the teachers, because I think it's that we're all susceptible as adults. We all share something on WhatsApp and don't think. And so I would put a lot of emphasis on helping teachers understand that on an intellectual, on a personal, emotional level. And I think it's, if we're not starting tomorrow, then it's becoming too late. So I think that would be my focus on the urgency.
Thank you, Dylan. Jiyoung?
Yeah, I would definitely agree what just Dylan has just said. So I really think that especially in this kind of digitalization of its education and online learning environment and all, so if I say from the capacity building programs on GCED for like a teacher side, yeah, it has to be really teacher-centered ones. So they are the ones who'll be bringing all these changes and teaching these GCED concepts and all. And then we've been putting a lot of emphasis on these SEL components, right? When we teach GCED in the classroom, you have to really take care of social-emotional aspects of the learners. Then what about the teachers? So I think it has to be really embedded in these capacity building and training programs for teachers as well. So like these emotional aspects and psychological support for the teachers. So if they do not experience themselves in the process of being trained, how can they actually implement it in their classrooms? So I think that it has to be really emphasized in these training programs, because I've seen that these kind of online platforms and all these fancy things such as like metaverse and all these things are coming up, and we just tend to focus on technology only. So how do we develop our technology? But it's not everything, right? It has to be some human factors there. Yeah. So I think it has to be really emphasized, and that's my recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. We only have 5 minutes left, so I would like to ask you for your final thoughts on this one, and then so that we can do the wrap-up. So maybe I can start with Dylan. Final thoughts.
Okay. I suppose I just want to, as Jiyoung was talking, it got me all fired up and activisty, but I do want to just emphasize this urgency on the approach we take with teachers as being our solution. Now, someone had said we have the vaccine and it's MIL, and I think that's right. But I do think we have to approach this as if this is COVID. When COVID happened, the one thing we did is we mobilized super quickly. We got the right people with the right skills. We activated, and I really think if we don't activate in the same way within the teacher community, and that's going to take. It's going to take money and the will of governments, and let me just say the generosity of teachers, because teachers are constantly called on to fix this piece, fix this. But unfortunately, this issue of misinformation, it really does fall on the shoulders of teachers to help fix, because once kids leave schools, we don't have any influence and any control. It's much harder. And so I really think there's an urgency for us to all sit around the table as a community and say, how are we going to support and mobilize teachers to really take on misinformation, and starting tomorrow, because we're running out of time.
Thank you very much, Dylan.
Yeah, I agree with Dylan on the sense of urgency, but I also would like to remind everybody that we are all recovering from what we have experienced during the past 2.5 years. And so at this time of recovery in learning, as well as recovery in the way we do things right now, we do it, we say we have a better normal, so we do it better normal. We look at how we can be best teachers, for the teachers, we can be best students, but as well as looking at how we can recuperate from the things that we have experienced during the pandemic. And so also the urgency of teaching about digital citizenship is important. I think it's of prime importance that you get our attention to this, because if we do it right now, when?
Thank you. Jiyoung?
Yeah, I think these two presenters, they already covered what I wanted to say. So taking this opportunity, I just would like to say thank you to all our alumni of AFSEU. They've done such a great, great work, and we're learning a lot from them. And also, I would like to invite the potential participants of our training program who are watching this program. So we would welcome you. So please come and join our training program and also be part of this wonderful learning community on GCED. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, all of you. So for our participants on the call right now, so recently we've just talked about challenges of connectivity, of the pandemic, of the humanization and the challenge of humanizing our online contents and in community building, also in the continuous understanding of the digital grammar of youth as well. But we've also talked about future possibilities of addressing misinformation, for example, which is something that we definitely need to do right now. There needs to be a sense of urgency, like we've treated it during the pandemic, GCED and other professions, and integrating that into different types of curriculum that are already existing in our schools right now, and also creating platforms where students, teachers are co-learners and co-creators in the process as well. There's a lot more to be said about what you've mentioned, but I just wanted to point that out. So thank you so much as well for our participants, and thank you so much, panelists, for your expert opinions on this session. There will be a 50-minute break for everyone here. You can go get your coffee, go take a rest for a while, and we will have a plenary session in 17:30 or in 5:30. Yeah, by 5:30, so Korean Standard Time. Thank you so much again, everybody, and hope to see you in the plenary sessions.